Good evening, Mr. and Ms. Internet, and all our ships at sea. It's Wednesday, it's 5 o'clock, it's time once again for the world famous Freeway Forum, coming to you live and direct from the world famous 405 freeway in beautiful, sunny Southern California. My name is Atari. I'll be your host for this free-form discussion on the topics of the day. Feel free to drop your responses in the comments below. This is a fun zone. Yell at each other, talk to each other, and let's have a good old time here on the Rush Hour Freeway Forum. So today's topic, obviously, Independence Day. Yes, thank you, Mary. Independence Day is next week. Probably won't. Well, of course, I think it's Tuesday next week. So Freeway Forum will be Wednesday if I have one. I don't think we're gonna have one next week, unfortunately. But because we're gonna be short for Independence Day, or colloquially known as the 4th of July, because it falls upon the 4th of July. We're gonna do it up today. We're gonna talk about our favorite patriotic films and television shows and anything else that tickles our fancy. The stuff that you just go, damn, I'm proud to be American when you watch it, you know. Even if you're not an American, the stuff that makes you go, damn, I'm proud to be an American. So yeah, obviously Independence Day. Obviously, that is of course, like, that's the big one. That's the one that everyone on Earth is American when they're watching Independence Day. We will not vanish without a fight. We're gonna live on. We're gonna survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day. I actually did I don't know if you've seen it, I did a shot-for-shot recreation of that scene, of that speech, the monologue from Independence Day. It is actually the channel trailer for my YouTube channel, so you can go over to youtube.com/The Airborne Surfer, or you can just search Airborne Surfer on youtube.com. You'll find my channel there, and you can watch that whole scene. I won't perform it for you today, but you can definitely go over there, and while you're there, hit the little subscribe button, and you can get all the fun videos as they come out. Freeway Forum is kind of our little thing here. This is me and you and all of our friends that are watching. These are live on Facebook once a week, Wednesday. What's today? Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Then they are posted to YouTube a week later on a Thursday. So, what do you mean dislike? What are you talking about? Why do you dislike my things? But, yeah, you can watch it live right now, or you can watch the replay a week later on YouTube. youtube.com/The Airborne Surfer. Search Airborne Surfer. Anyway, so I want to know, now that I'm stopped here and I can actually glance down at the comments, I want to know what your favorite patriotic film, TV show, The Patriot, Mel Gibson. It's Braveheart in America. I love it. That's a fantastic movie. Heath Ledger being the older kid in that one. Anybody seen The Patriot? Anybody else seen The Patriot? Fantastic movie. A lot of fun. Interestingly enough, the guy that Mel Gibson is playing, he's based on that character is based on a real person. Fun bit of trivia, he really was a guerrilla fighter in South Carolina during the Revolutionary War. He was not known as the Ghost, however, like he was in the movie. He was known as the Swamp Fox. which is actually a much cooler and more interesting and more unique name than the Ghost. But but the Swamp Fox was a real person. I forgot his name, but you can look him up. He was a gentleman in South Carolina, and he actually, this is an interesting legacy. He has a roller coaster in Myrtle Beach named after him. The wooden roller coaster, the last oceanfront roller coaster in South Carolina is at Family Kingdom Amusement Park in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it is named after him. It is called the Swamp Fox. And it is a very fun roller coaster. It cost you about $3.50 to ride it last time I was there. It's a fun ride. My nephew, who was scared of roller coasters, he was scared of roller coasters until he got on there with my dad, and fell in love with roller coasters after that, which naturally you do. But he ended up riding that roller coaster. They had the all-day pass or whatever. So he got off the roller coaster, ran around back to the entrance, got back on. He rode the thing over and over again, almost nonstop. He rode it like 4 or 5 times, and then just absolutely lost his cookies. Just lost it after that. So fun story about the Patriot there and the Swamp Fox and roller coasters and Team America World Police. America, yeah, coming in to say the motherfucking day, America, yeah. Freedom is the only way now. So, yeah, anything by Trey Parker and Matt Stone is pretty much brilliant. And Team America being no exception to that rule. It was tongue-in-cheek then. It is even more prescient now. It's absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that they do the whole Thunderbirds marionette work, and that's absolutely brilliant. I love the marionette work. I love how it really has that cheesy 60s children's show kind of aesthetic to it. The way it's shot, the way it's filmed, and then of course the subject matter is just ridiculously mature. Team America. The only thing I did not like about Team America, the only thing I did not like about that movie was that vomiting scene where it just goes on forever, and I'm like, this is not funny anymore. Like, it was funny for the first 20 seconds, 30 seconds, but it goes on for 2 or 3 minutes. And it's ridiculous, and he's just vomiting and vomiting and vomiting and vomiting and vomiting, and it's just terrible. But that scene and the sex scene, the 2 puppets, that went on way longer than it should have. But yeah, Team America, that's a fantastic movie. I love everything about that movie. Well, almost everything about that movie. So, what else? What else do you guys? What else is your kind of go-to feel-good Murica inspiring sort of 4th of July, Independence Day sort of media? I mean, it doesn't have to just be movies. I mean, you can throw in Bruce Springsteen, the Born in the USA album, Born in the USA. I have that on vinyl, actually, and I like to bust that out on the 4th of July, even though the song is kind of ironic and everything, but which was awesome because it was all about how conservative politics are terrible for the country, and Reagan used it as his campaign song. Born in the USA, born in the USA. But when I was a kid, I used to ride around on my bike, just riding around screaming that at the top of my lungs, "Born in the USA." It was like a catchphrase, I guess. I don't know. And I remember there was a Sesame Street parody of that, where it was all these barn animals, and they were singing "In a barn in the USA." what's going on here? Anyway, so yeah, you know, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, The Patriot, Independence Day, ID4. Of course, you know, we shall not even mention the sequel to the greatest patriotic movie of all time, because it is a terrible, terrible, horrid thing that should never have happened, and thankfully tanked. I think it tanked. I hope it tanked. I really don't want to see a trilogy here or a cinematic universe spawn out of such a brilliant film and just milk it for all it's worth. But everything about Independence Day was pretty fantastic. Just from the setup, the fact that it was that was Roland Emmerich, and Roland Emmerich makes spectacular blockbusters. Sesame Street Classics. Oh my gosh, it is! Oh, holy crap, that's amazing. We're gonna have to find it now. It's probably on the Sesame Street YouTube page too, because they do a lot of their old they put a lot of their old sketches on YouTube, or at least they used to, CTW or Sesame Workshop, whatever. That's another thing. When they became like obsessed with Sesame Street, when CTW, Children's Television Workshop, when they just like dropped support for everything else they were doing, they had all these brilliant shows in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. And then Elmo took off like a bat out of hell, and they're like, let's capitalize on this and make money! So like Sesame Workshop just became like, or CTW became Sesame Workshop, which just became, you know, the company that runs Sesame Street. For better or worse, they do good work, but I feel like they're missing a lot of opportunities. The Electric Company, they had that brief sort of weird revival of the Electric Company, but they didn't really put a whole lot of heart and soul into it from what I remember. The Electric Company, Schoolhouse Rocks was a Children's Television Workshop, and that was a joint venture with CTW and ABC. And what else was there? 321 Contact with CTW, and of course my favorite, Square One TV. I mean, how many other television shows out there teach mathematics with sketch comedy, and actually had a lot of alumni from like SCTV involved in it? You don't get much more brilliant than Square One TV. So that's an aside. It's not so terribly patriotic, but you know, whatever. Children's Television Workshop. And if you remember the word mark for CTW, the little card that I mean, that's forever ingrained in my brain. Much like the strange like 70s 80s PBS logo, where it does sort of the same, you know, whatever little animated PBS thing that came out. If you remember that, drop a comment. Drop a comment if you remember the old PBS and the old children's. Oh gosh, we got a connection. If you remember the old PBS, the old PBS title cards and the old CTW Children's Television Workshop title cards, give us a like or drop it down, drop a comment in the doobly-doo there, and let me know you remember that stuff. I can't possibly be the only person that remembers this stuff. Let me know. So anyway, patriotic stuff. What else do we have? We have Independence Day, the Patriot, Team America. What else you got there? You know who was like super patriotic? You know who was super patriotic? Not a movie or anything like that, but a character who was super patriotic. Besides Sam the Eagle, I know what you're gonna say, Mary. Besides Sam the Eagle, you know who was like the super patriotic character who always comes into my head whenever I think of ridiculous patriotic characters? I think of, besides Apollo Creed too, I do think of Apollo Creed, but I picture Mr. T. Mr. freaking T was like Mr. Patriotism. He was, you know, the red, white, and blue unitard, and the boxing trunks. He's like Apollo Creed on steroids. Oh man, Mr. T had it going on. And he was always like, treat your mama right. You know, and his, drink some milk, treat your mama right. And, oh, you're getting lagged. Don't worry, you'll catch up to me eventually. Anyway, so Mr. T was all like, drink your mama right, drink your milk, go to school, stay in school, fool. And like he would show up and he was like the super tough guy, but he was like the nicest person on the planet. Is the nicest person on the planet, is like the nicest character, but he's like the super tough guy at the same time. It's weird. Like he was in Silver Spoons. I remember being in, having a cameo in Silver Spoons, and he was like the little rich kid, the little rich brat kids. He was his bodyguard or something like that. He shows up and he's in class. He has to introduce himself, and the teacher's like, "What is your name?" "Mr. T." It's like, okay, well, what's your full name, Mr. T? He's like, "My first name is Mr. Middle name is that little period. Last name T." And it was just like, he was all like super intimidating. Everyone, oh. But yeah, Mr. T was always struck me as being like this super patriotic kind of guy, and I'm sure he really is in real life. And speaking of wrestlers and super patriotic wrestlers, I feel like you know, of course, Mr. T and Hulk Hogan were like teammates there for a while. So I feel like Hulk Hogan also kind of had that shtick going on in the height of Hulkamania. I think he had that shtick going on where he's like, "I'm Mr. America, brother," and there was another guy that was like all super like patriotic character. I can't think of him, but they were all like the good guy characters, and it was weird. And like, speaking of like Hulk Hogan was a good guy, and then Jim the Hacksaw Dugan, Jim Dugan. I barely remember him. I really barely remember him. But it was weird because tell me more about Hacksaw Dugan in the comments there, because I'm probably missing a joke here, because I am paying attention to driving more than I am anything else. So it was weird, like in the 90s when like Hulk Hogan became, he joined the NWO and became a bad guy. I was like, what's going on here? This is terrible stuff. The Hollywood Hulk, and no, we don't talk about that stuff. That's right up there with the Gawker sex tape. We're just not going to talk about that. Let's just keep out of that. But yeah, so there was that, and of course, speaking of Mr. T, you know, the A-Team, of course, being like super patriotic there because they're you know, fighting for the oppressed and you know, saving people, and they're like, that's like super America. They're Team America before Team America. And you know, Face and Mad Dog Murdoch, and or no, Howlin' Mad Murdoch. I was going to call him because his name was HM. His character's name was HM, and his call sign was Howlin' Mad. Face and Howlin' Mad Murdoch, Mr. T, B.A. Baracus, sorry, his character name, B.A. Baracus. I pitied a fool. And who am I missing? Of course, Hannibal, Colonel, and the A-Team was fantastic. A-Team, yeah, all those shows back in the day. You know, there's like prime time action adventure kind of shows. A-Team, Knight Rider. I think the exception really was like Quantum Leap was. But it wasn't of that period, though. Quantum Leap was more late 80s into the 90s. It wasn't like that early 80s campy action shows. But the what else was there? What am I thinking of? Oh, Airwolf. Airwolf is what I was trying to think of. Airwolf was weird because Airwolf like had this like adversarial sort of approach to the government. Like they were working for this quasi NGO thing, a firm, or wait, the firm was Airwolf, and Knight Rider was the foundation. So like these NGOs that were like, they were like plausible deniability level of separation. Any close calls with wood? I have not had any close calls. Knock on something that resembles wood. Yes, Captain America, of course. Steve Rogers being, of course, well, he is Captain America. Oh, okay, that guy. Yes, I remember that guy. Hacksaw Dugan. That's Hacksaw Dugan. Okay, that's who I was trying to think of, because I remember a guy doing that, and I just couldn't remember who it was that did it. So that was Jim Dugan, Hacksaw Dugan. Fantastic. Thank you, John, for letting me know. And other Johnson. We did talk about Patriot earlier. You can catch that on the replay. It's not super historically accurate, but it's inspired by a true story. It's not super accurate, but whatever. We'll go with it. We'll give Hollywood some leeway there. But a lot of fun. It's roughly historically accurate. And Jim Dugan, coming out wearing an American flag as a cape and getting the crowd to chant. Absolutely. You know what else I love about the... I feel like the 80s were like a super, like even more patriotic time. They were like an even more super patriotic time than the 2000s were. Because the 2000s were kind of super patriotic. Like they were like patriotic to a fault, even. In the wake of the terrorist attacks in 2001, it felt like you had to be a patriot, or else it was unilateralism. Like there was this level of unilateralism that came about in the 2000s. You're either with us or you're against us. It was for better or worse. And I think a lot of the like super patriotic stuff that came out was almost a little tongue in cheek. It was almost a little ironically treating it. Hence Team America. But like in the 80s it was like legit, like straight up jingo-tastic patriotism, like like Rocky IV. I mean, Rocky IV, man, you don't get much more patriotic than that. Speaking of Apollo Creed, we were talking about Apollo Creed earlier too. But yeah, you don't get much more patriotic than Rocky IV. It's like, he's all like super Russian, Dolph Lundgren. But apparently he's a really brilliant guy, by the way. Dolph Lundgren is like, God, he's got graduate degrees in like engineering and something else. He's like a brilliant guy. But you would never believe it just looking at him in his movies. The Rocky IV, and really like most of the Rocky movies have this sort of like, super America kind of vibe to them. John says Apollo 13. Apollo 13, that is definitely a proud to be an American kind of movie. It's not like outright patriotic, but it is really like, this is an amazing thing that we did as a country, as a nation, and that's ridiculous and amazing. Like ridiculous in a good way, like that's mind-blowing. I don't mean ridiculous as in like subject to ridicule. We need a good shot in the arm, like Apollo 13 had. Apollo 13 was a big shot in the arm for not a shot in the arm for the space program, but it was a big shot in the arm for sort of coming together as a country and getting over adversity. I hated that like terrible tragic things or possibly tragic things have to happen that, you know, we come together as a country. But, you know, Apollo 13 and 2001 and those sorts of things that happen that kind of force us to come together, kind of like this shooting at the baseball field a couple of weeks ago. You know, these are the sorts of things that you know, we gotta come together, and we gotta like start talking to each other, stop looking at each other as enemies. And this is really what this is sort of my rant part. But that's what I want to see. I want to see everybody come together over these commonalities, you know, over the stuff that we enjoy, you know, the stuff that brings us together. You know, we can love movies, we can hate movies, and we can love to hate movies, or we can hate to love movies. But at the end of the day, you know, when we talk to each other, this is what's going on, and this is where we are. Saving Private Ryan, big time, big time. Now, of course, you can make that argument for just about any war movie, especially World War II. But yeah, Saving Private Ryan, fantastic film. Brilliant cinematography, great story. It gets you right in the feels, and you do go out of that saying, damn, I'm proud to have been part of that, even though you weren't part of that, but whatever. You know, and that's what happened. You know, we saved the world, and we can do it again. We can save the world again if we can come together and put aside our differences and work together and just accept science and accept the things that are happening, accept our observations, and we get there and we will do it. We'll save the world. Rocky 3. Oh no, not Rocky 3. Rambo 3. Rambo 3, John. Come on, man. I mean, it's Stallone. Yes, it's Stallone. It's just Stallone with everybody keeps typing Rocky 3, but it's Rambo 3. Rambo First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3. Rambo was just Rambo 3, I think, right? Because like Rambo 1, Rambo 2 were Rambo First Blood Part 1 and 2. And yeah, same thing. Instead of just punching people, he's got a gun. He's got a big old BAR. He's just killing people. But yeah, when he fights the Russians, anytime we fight the Russians, it's brilliant. I love that's kind of why I love the 80s from the 80s blockbuster movies. I just love those movies just because they're so ridiculously over the top, jingoistic, super nationalist, patriotic movies. I love them. Yeah, a lot of it's tongue-in-cheek. A lot of my love for it is kind of tongue-in-cheek because you look at it, it's like, but I love that aesthetic. I love the fact that there is a solid bad guy. We need to make more movies like that again. We need to make movies like that, especially with this stuff about Russia and Russians trying to overthrow the government or rig the elections or whatever. You know, I think it's time for more. I think we need more movies with Russian bad guys, with big Russian bad guys, like big, like Soviet style bad guys, like James Bond style, Rocky 4, Rambo 3, Soviet Union bad guys. That is what we need in this. We need that right now. Okay, so that's what it is. Rambo 1 and 2, and then Rambo 1 and 2 are First Blood 1 and 2, and then the third one is just Rambo 3. Oh, Daniel came up with it. Red Dawn, man. Oh shit, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we need. We need movies. We need movies like Red Dawn, and not like the remake of Red Dawn, which was horrid. Absolutely horrid. That's a movie that just does not need to exist. But the original Red Wolverines. Yeah, people on the freeway are looking at me all weird, like what's going on. But But the original Red Dawn. Oh my God, I love that movie. I always wanted to like try and figure out exactly what was going on, because you don't see much outside of the new one. Does the new one have Russians and North Korea, or is it just North? I thought it was just North Korea. But the old one was the Russians, and actually the main bad guy in the original was Cuban, I think. I'm pretty sure he was Cuban. I think he was Cuban. He wasn't Mexican. He was Cuban. They came up through Mexico. That's what happened. Like the entire world had fallen to Soviet control, into Soviet dominions, and like the U.S. is the only country left. I would love to have seen the sort of lead up to that. I would love to have seen that, as sort of a thought experiment, how that could have happened. I'd love to know your comments. I'd love to know your ideas about how that would have happened, how this whole, like, the entire world circa 1983 would have fallen to Soviet control, leaving only the United States. And then, of course, how did the Russians actually pull off that invasion? How did they pull it off? I want to know. Let me know what you think in the comments. How did they pull it off, and what life would have been like in free America on the west and the east coasts? Because as who was that? I forgot the actor that played the downed pilot that they rescued. I forgot the actor that played him, but I keep wanting to say it was Michael Ironside, but I don't think it was Michael Ironside. I want to know. I want to know what was going on in the Voice of Freedom. When they were broadcasting the pirate radio signals into occupied America. I'm really curious to like explore that as an idea curious to explore that as an idea in 1983 and see what life would have been like inside and outside occupied America, because we only get a very, very narrow view of the sort of movements that are happening, the sort of battles that are happening in occupied America, because we really see it from the lens of the Wolverines. So that's an interesting point. Yeah, an EMP definitely would be required. An EMP would have been required back then, most likely too, simply because you have to knock out communications. That's why I'm looking at it as a thought experiment. How would you actually pull that off? How would anybody pull that off? And that's an object of curiosity. I've always been curious about sort of the logistics of nuclear war and the logistics of an all-out World War III type scenario with the United States and the Soviet Union in that era, in the 80s, maybe going into the 90s, because you have different sorts of technologies that emerge through the 70s, 80s, and going into the 90s. Definitely new types of technologies, and it would be very interesting to see those sorts of kind of like Hunt for Red October from the Russian perspective, but really more just sort of looking at it. Dare I use the term extended universe? Oh, that's okay. It's okay. You can miss the second sentence. It's all right. I'm not gonna hold that against you. Everything is susceptible to hacking. It's just a matter of how determined the intruder is. In fact, actually, that new WannaCry has actually just shut down the sensors, all the environmental sensors at the Chernobyl site. So that's interesting. There's a bunch of remote sensors there, and they're all connected to the internet because, of course, they are, because you can't get close enough to go and read them on, all the time. So WannaCry, the WannaCry malware has actually shut those down, and the German outfit that was running their email address has actually shut them down. So now nobody can pay the ransom. So now we're all kind of stuck, which is very interesting. So that's an interesting idea, an interesting observation. So yeah, so we're kind of getting to the end of the Freeway Forum here. I appreciate everybody jumping in. I appreciate everybody coming to talk, and we're having a good time here. And we're just yelling at each other, having a good time, and carrying on like we would sitting around the table with a few beers. Anyway, so I want you guys to continue the discussion. It's actually my exit, so I'm gonna be bugging out of here. But please continue the discussion in the doobly-doo. Comment with each other, talk amongst yourselves. My name is Atari. This has been the Freeway Forum. And continue the discussion in the comments. Of course, you can hit me up on Twitter at Airborne Surfer and at airbornesurfer.com. And of course, the YouTube channel, Airborne Surfer, located at youtube.com/The Airborne Surfer. Airborne Surfer on Twitter, airbornesurfer.com, youtube.com/The Airborne Surfer. I will see you all again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, tally ho, y'all.